Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, and we're
Welcome.
live on
I'm
a
going to
Wednesday.
change this, bring this down just a pinch.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, we're like we're not as well centered.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Gotta have it
Dave's
in
probably
balance.
in the background going, guys, this is a
God,
broadcast.
come on, guys.
Watch what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So happy Wednesday. We're glad you're all here today. It's been such a lovely week and
Yeah, it's great.
gotten a lot of been working an awful lot as partners and a team on some of the things that are coming up and
yeah, it's been
getting
one of
some
those
things
weeks where
dialed in.
you work and suddenly things start to snap in place and it feels good, right?
I love
it's like
it.
you kind of
I
chipping
absolutely
away.
love it.
Yeah, that's been
And so one of those things is we're kind of getting ready. We're heading to Vegas for the NEO summit. So
Right.
they'll be doing training right after Buy Here, Pay Here United, like the next day.
Right.
So it's kind of like one of those add-ons.
I've got those dates. April 30th through May 2nd is BHPH United, and then the NEO Summit on May 3rd, all at the Bellagio. So if you don't have your flights, grab a flight. We'll see you out there.
Yeah, we're going to drive because we're now close enough that it's
Yeah.
just, it's going to be a nice drive, and then we'll have the wheels and all that kind of stuff. So we're going as mostly like participants because we have so many clients that use NEO right now, and it's good as to understand how, especially when we're the ones that are doing a lot of the introductions and all of that. So
a couple other quick announcements. The videos are now available and being released soon.
Well, they're actually in Buy
Value.
Here, Pay Here Institute. We have all of the recordings are there now. Those of you who attended and had a ticket, that I'll be sending all of you your access credentials to get in and see that, because that was part of your ticket. And so that should be coming soon. Also, vendors and any of the participants will be getting their access credentials as well. So if anyone has heard about it and want to be able to participate in that it's up and ready.
Quickly, the editing is done on the Tote the Note podcast that we did with Steve Levine, and
we're just waiting to get the
bit of work
little
on the graphics.
Graphic thing done.
So look for Steve Levine on the morning show one day soon.
We probably will within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we'll have him on
based on his schedule. But a ton of stuff. And also, I just made a note. I think May 11th we decided was our first broadcast of the morning show. We're coming up on a 1-year anniversary. So
it's hard to believe it's been a year. Now I have to pat. We have not missed a show. I may have missed a show.
She's dodged a few. Yeah.
We have not missed a show.
Yeah.
And which is, I'm kind of excited about that we've done them, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday live,
sure.
Except I think we did one recorded one for the 4th of July.
We got to be in the ballpark of 150 episodes by the time we get to there. So it's all good.
Yeah. So we're excited about that.
We're still showing up and having fun. Should we bring in our guests?
Oh yeah. We have, did you guys see who is we have 2 guests. We have our special guest, Dave, you're special too. But we have Mr. Tommy Brandis joining us, from Pennsylvania. Welcome. And we also have our CEO, Dave Murray here. And we were, can I start with
No.
I'm gonna. So Jim and I have been sitting back and watching. I am trolling Facebook for different dealerships and watching how they're communicating with their customer. What it is that they're doing on social media. And I have so loved watching what Tommy has been doing over the course of the last 6 months or so. And it is just, if any of you are looking for a way of approaching so that you're more personalized, look up Tommy's dealership and like the page so you can see some of the stuff, because it's so frequently that I am seeing customer success stories, and you're telling a story and it is just beautiful. It just makes me happy every time I see it. So Tommy, tell us about what was that spurred this, what it was that got you to start doing that?
Well, we've always had that create a relationship,
Mhm.
mentality, and you go back 30 years when everybody came into the dealership when there was no ACH and there was no credit card payments and there was no internet,
Yeah.
and most of your payments were weekly payments. You got to know the customers on a first name basis, but not only the first name, their kids, and you saw them out at the local pub, and you saw them at, of course, there wasn't even a Walmart then, I don't think. In town, so you got to know everybody, and I know we've talked about it on occasion. Is it's getting harder and harder to keep the relationship going. It's hard enough to create it because we focus so much on just getting a car sold,
Yeah.
and then to maintain it is impossible because ACH, and you might never see a good customer you may never hear from again, God forbid.
Yeah.
So it just got to the point where I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I conveyed it to my team and conveyed it to my team and conveyed it to my vendors that I was using to help. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go and see if it still works. So
And
I cut a lot of bait and got back in the dealership on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, it still works. It's not magic. It's just
Yeah. What I see you doing, Tommy, is we know you well enough to know you're a good storyteller. Now you're just kind of telling those stories on social media, and
Mhm.
obviously with permission of your customers, you're telling the kind of the history and how they came to be your customer, and
Sure.
it just is a nice way to profile the customer. Dave, I don't know how much of that we're talking about that you have seen, but we just are enjoying watching Tommy just kind of go tell the stories about these people. And one of my favorite ones was the one about where you referred to the once was a kid eating popcorn
Eat popcorn.
mom
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
dealership.
Andrew, and the funny thing is, I didn't know. He didn't like walk in the door and say, "Hey, I'm the kid that used to come in with my mom, who's bought 3 cars from you, and used to get popcorn." Like that came up as we started talking because he came in with his typical, "Can I get approved? And how am I going to get approved today?"
Mhm.
And then once the the armor dropped, then everything just opens up, and then that's how that story came out. And
Sure.
God, now we're like best friends again, So that was
Yeah.
Good.
So Dave, you have a long history of marketing and all of that. How important is it to tell the story?
It is the only thing, really. We, philosophically, we connect on stories. We connect on storytelling. I mean, look everywhere we go, you look at anything, it's always an attempt to better connect or find a way to connect in a way that, maybe my competitor's not doing. But it all comes down to just finding out, who they are, what they are, yeah, and speaking to their level. I think I've told you this, early on, is I always had a moniker when I came out of the news business was real, raw, and relevant. That was sort of my 3 pillars of communication. It's just make it real, make it raw, make it relevant, meaning make it interesting. And that's all just about storytelling. It's just, if you can do those things and connect to your customers or your would-be customers, that's how we connect to one another.
Mhm.
We like stories. We just do. And it doesn't matter if we see our world as like, oh, these very big, serious things, but it's really storytelling.
Sure.
People who are better storytellers or natural storytellers, we know this, we've seen this. They connect to people.
Mhm.
And there's something, and it helps foster real relationships.
Sure. I say,
That's what
Tommy,
I'd say.
yeah, absolutely. I think, Tommy, that you can't create a relationship without some first level of connection. So wherever that starts, might be out on the lot, might be in the building, might be on the
Mhm.
telephone, but there's some way that we connect with somebody early on to establish what we hope is a long relationship. So how does that work at your dealership?
well. I think I've always been a person who just loves to see how other people got where they are.
Yeah.
Sitting at a bar, I'll talk to anybody. I just love talking to people, learning about people, hearing about people. And I read a book a while ago called "The Life Lessons of a Legend." It's a book about Captain Tony from Key West. And if you read all about him, he wasn't, but in the book he said everybody has a diamond. something that they're truly passionate about, something that makes them them. And if you can find that diamond, then you got them, and you have a lifelong friend and connection with that person. So that's kind of what I try to do. And you know, when you talk to people, their passion will come out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know? And then you can just pick up on it. And I've always said I'm not a smart guy. I'm a good listener. You know, I just listen to them and kind of give feedback. And the next thing you know, we're friends. So
Yeah.
it's come easy to me. I don't know how to explain it to people, but I guess I'm fortunate to have that.
Well, and it is for a lot of people. Well, there's some people, it's a natural thing for them to, to be able to talk to anybody. And there are a lot of dealers that we work with that may not have that skill as a natural skill, but it can be a learned skill.
Sure.
It can be something, it can be something that's learned, and like reading the books and then putting little things that you're reading the books to practice, and practicing your active listening and practice good question asking, and you can start to
You're
develop.
right, because what we have to realize is when that customer comes in the dealership, and you guys said it, how does that customer feel coming in?
Mhm.
Their main goal that day is to make sure they get a car, and they're going to do it any
Yeah.
way possible. And
Yeah.
we're in control. We're in the driver's seat, so we can handle that conversation any way we want to. So we can come in and browbeat them and say, "How long have you lived here? How much you make? Where's your driver's license?" Da, 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 da. Or we can just say, "Hey, you've got a Dale Earnhardt T-shirt on," and it's like, yeah, I love Dale Earnhardt, or just kind of create a completely different conversation. They're already there. They're gonna buy a car. They wouldn't have walked in the door.
Yeah.
So the conversation does not have to immediately go to let's get them sold and get them out the door.
Thank you.
Now, and so part of this, we're kind of talking about the whole grand picture of what we wanted to talk about, and one big element is just having the conversation with them. There was a part of this though that we were. It's part of it is also how you perceive the customer. Actually, will lend what kind of communication you want to have with them. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think there's so much here, and I should just pause and tell our listeners. First of all, those who tune in are bound to know our main theme today is customer success, and there's a lot to talk about here. So we may run, past our typical 30 minutes this morning because there's just a lot of things that kind of intersect with this topic that we're covering today. And I think, Tommy, I went back and I fished out an old poll. It was July 19th of last year that I did a poll in the Success group and maybe elsewhere, but the one I found this morning was from Success, and we asked the question, basically, what percentage of your customers out there are truthful? Like, what's the measurement of honesty of the people that you meet?
I lost.
And so we had 35 respondents. Oh, you're going to try to show it on the screen?
I was going to try to show it on the screen.
Yeah, that's cool. So I've got the numbers here, but we had 35 respondents, not a big number, but clearly the answers were along the line of, one was kind of smart alecky. Oh, we had an honest customer once. Nobody gave that answer. The other ones were nearly all of the customers are honest, right? Nearly all of them. That was just 2 out of the 35, though, responded with that. 12 of the 35 said most are truthful most of the time. Did you find it?
I did not.
But,
that was the one that was in Success, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And then the vast majority of the people
It's
answered
like 50 some odd percent.
Yeah, 19 of the 35, the answer was the most common answer said they're about the same. The level of honesty with our customers is about the same as the general population.
Let me find that.
Which I find interesting because what that tells me is that our customers are the same as you and me, which we kind of knew anyway, right? So
well, it was. I'm looking at this right now, and it was 54% was representation of the larger population,
right?
And then it got.
So let's read the question to make sure I'm.
So the question was, what letter grade would you give your buy here, pay here customer entire portfolio in terms of honesty? And A+ was all the time. They tell the truth all the time. No, we had no one. I think that actually one person or something. Next was an A-. Nearly all of them tell the truth nearly all of the time, and that had 5%. And then a B would be most or truthful most of the time. That was 34%. And then C, which was the largest one, was mixed, probably representative of the larger population, 54%. And then the final 6 was we had an honest customer once, or we're still waiting for someone to be honest with us. So the largest percentage was that it's a representation of the larger population, which got us talking about something too this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, it's like,
Um,
when we recognize that those folks are really just the
mhm,
same as we are, they're just in a different place in life, probably.
mhm.
And so I think as I hear that, Tommy, I'm just thinking, what is the lens? And in particular, there's so many tangents off of this. Like I've already said, David, I want to have Tommy back at the end of May. He's going to be coming up on a 31-year anniversary.
Congratulations. We had you on your 30th. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think for our dealer listeners, I'm really thinking, Tommy, we get it. You're an engaging person. You chat up people at the bar. And so it's easy to understand how you connect with people and create relationships and earn customers. I'm interested in the part about how do you convey that to your people? Like, how do you have that permeate the rest of the operation and help them learn what it is? Because I hope this morning we can help some other listeners learn what it is that you do, and how can somebody out there on the front line start to see the customer differently and maybe bring a different approach to the customer
Mhm.
because of that. So what do you think, Tommy?
Well, that's difficult because our customers have been trained. They're survivors, and I've said that they're no different than the fox that I watch out back every day, who I know is hunting for food
Mhm.
for his new pups, or the dealer who has a credit line, who lives paycheck to paycheck by their borrowing base
Mhm.
every week. Our customers live paycheck to paycheck. We do. The fox in the back has to adapt and overcome to feed his family. We all have to feed our family. We all have to do what we need to do to
Yeah.
survive. So our customers have been trained that way. So they're going to come in right away with the guard up,
Mhm.
and we have to be able to break down that over time. And they will lie if they feel they need to lie, and out of the box they feel they need to lie because they've heard no. My new line is, they say no, we say yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because I don't care about how long you've been at the job or anything like that. I care about your character and if you need a car. But I don't know really how to portray it other than if you don't think your customer is exactly like you, then you're going to have a problem. If you think you're better than your customer, um, because you drive a nicer, newer car or live in a bigger house or whatever, you're not. You're the same exact person. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck from having trouble. We're the same stress as they do, just on a different level.
Mhm.
So you have to get into that realm to where you're exactly like them, and they're just going through they're on a different track.
Yeah.
Once that breaks down, and then the customer really understands that you care and you're going to help them, then the customer opens up. Then it becomes easy, But like I
Mhm.
said, our customers will lie if we force them to lie.
Yeah.
Like when I repossess a car, my old adage is, if I can put my head down on a pillow after I just took a single mother's only mode of transportation to work, to provide for her family, and fall asleep, then I know I did everything I could do to help her before that.
Mhm.
Out of that, we have to make sure we can talk to the customers and allow the customers to talk to us, or it's just not going to be, or you're just a number and not a person. Does
Yeah.
that make any sense? Sometimes I
Of
ramble because
course.
Yeah.
No, no.
I'm passionate about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, what I'm kind of hearing is that initial, when they're first coming in and you're having those conversations, it's like that initial connection is like so essential. That's where the foundations lie, is that initial connection with your customer
Right.
is and creating that safe environment for them to.
Yeah, well, it's they walk in, and or they're on, and I've been doing I've been handling the BDC too, and a lot of it I've kind of been having more success with texts, which is something for another day. But a lot of them, they lead out with the price question, because that's the only question they know, and then that's a question they know they can fight about because they know our price is going to be too high. So you just diffuse that. It's a conditioned question by them.
Mhm.
So you get that diffused. And the second one, why I had bad credit? And I'm like, so what? You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
most people do it here. Well, I just got a new job. Yeah, that's cool. You know, it's like all that stuff doesn't matter
Mhm.
because they're supposed to change jobs 3 times, and they will change apartment. That's who they are. You know, if we sit here and think, well, you got to have such and such, and you got to make such and such, and you got to do this. It's not true. They're survivors. They figure out how to pay the car. Rick Reeves said it best. The car is the most important thing in their life. And we're coming in. You know, they can go live with a friend, but they can only get so many rides to work.
Yeah.
And we're coming into an economy where our customer base will not have choices like they did a few years ago, where they can go
Mhm.
across the street or go down here. You know, you don't see cars being dropped off like you used to and going someplace else. Everything's tightening. So creating that relationship with the customer now and realizing that we're here to help, and we may very possibly be your last choice for the foreseeable future. Let's work together.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they're like, usually they just go, cool,
Yep.
you know, and then they tell you everything. Then they tell you too much.
Yeah. Well, it turns out, and
How
then
do you, I,
in that,
I was gonna ask a question, Tommy, of you. So how do you like identify people you want that you hire that kind of exhibit your traits, which is what I'm saying. I mean, you see people, you meet people where they are, which is something that's hard to teach. So there's certain people that are like, look, I don't care who you are. I'm just going to see you today, and I'm going to look past a lot of stuff so you can have and get through some of those barriers, right? And actually connect to people. How do you hire? What do you look for? How do you teach that?
A lot of times it'll be the funny thing, a bartender. You know, if you can see a bartender on a Friday night, 3 deep, and not sweating and just handling it and having a good time, that's somebody that can handle the stress. Or fast food. I started in fast food, and I still think that's the best training. Everybody needs to spend a year at McDonald's. You know, because you learn cross training and you learn how to deal with customers, and you get to see both sides of it and all that. So it's a lot of that people, and then more open people, more level headed people. Yeah, I guess that's it. I haven't really hired all that many people because the people that I hire stay.
Mhm.
You know, so it's
I think
I don't
good
have
problem to have.
turnover. I don't have turnover.
That's a good problem to have.
I
Yeah.
never worked there, but I think if you add up all my time in the drive up, I've spent a year at McDonald's. So I think I'm
There
probably.
you go.
I was just thinking from what you were saying, you know, to being able to dial in when you're talking to someone, you might meet them at the bar or at the McDonald's, and I have encouraged a lot of our clients. It's like have some kind of way to drop a card or drop something that say, hey, if you're ever looking for a different situation, give me a call because I'd like to talk to you about this. But I used to hire people all over the US. And so it was kind of hard to do the one-on-one and meet them that way. And so I would usually ask them to tell me a story. And it was typically tell me the story of your best customer experience, a customer, you know, how like this was
Excellent.
the best. And so I can go and I'm going to tell people, hey, next time you need a mechanic, you're going to go to Peachtree, which is out here in Layton, because they are going to treat you so well. And so I would have them tell stories like that. And then I would also have them tell stories about their worst customer experience, a customer service experience, because that kind of like you can use that and to kind of dial in what are the things that they're aware of, and you know, use that in that hiring process. So that's just, you know, a little bit of the experience I've had with hiring. It's if you can get someone who's a good storyteller and can tell a great story about their experience in the good and the bad, you've got someone who can communicate pretty well.
It's true. Yep.
Yeah, and I think, Tommy, what I'm hearing you touch on, and I would like to go a little further into this idea that, you know, when you think about the experience, the lens that your customer sees the dealership through, and now we talk about your dealership. Customer reaches out to you or shows up on your lot, and they think about what do they know about your dealership, or what do they know about buy here, pay here dealerships in general, and how's that forming their approach to you? Right. And what I'm hearing from you is you're very, what I call inclusive, which is
Mhm.
you look past the stuff that is the today and the questions that are, you look past that. Like you're kind of what I call the 10-year relationship. Like you're really thinking all this little stuff we're talking about today. I'm really trying to understand how can we create a relationship that we're together for 10 and 20, and you have customers been with you for
Oh my
30
gosh.
years.
Every
30 years.
week I'm seeing people.
Yeah.
This is their third car. This is
Sure.
their fourth car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
30
time I
years.
say 10-year approach, I think Tommy hears that and says, "Come on, Jim, step it up. Let's go for 30." So, yeah, no, it's like thinking past the stuff that's right now, right? It's like thinking past all the little stuff about you at job time and down payment and all the stuff that seems like it's the thing that we need to talk about right now. You're kind of going past that. So, so how does that look, Tommy? If you think about the lens that the customer sees you and or dealerships through, what does that look like?
I think we're just a little more laid back.
Okay.
Like Gunner wears shorts, and people call him a salesman in shorts, and he wears shorts probably 364 days out of the year. He wears shorts like if he has long pants on or I have a tie on, usually somebody important died.
Yeah.
That's really it. So we're kind of more laid back, and me, I'm laid back. It's like. We know I like sitting with the underwriting, and I have to say I want to talk to Gene Daughtry more, but I know he's got a good seminar presentation coming up at National about underwriting outside the numbers.
Okay, good.
Different things, location and we'll bring back the sea of credit, the character sea of credit. Nobody looks at that anymore.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think with AI and everything, we're focused more on a regimented, robotic. And I don't sit there and look for what I guess would call be the duh answer. Will you run a credit report? Why? Well, I want to see what their credit score, how many repos they have. Well, they're supposed to have a low credit score and multiple repos. It's things like that. I look past all that and see the customer. I 120 group meeting we were in. Mr. Bill Lazell. And now Matt King is running his store, but he said he looks at the customer and gets the whole picture of the customer. And if the customer is spiraling up, no matter what the other things happen, he takes a shot with the customer, but if the customer's spiraling down, and you can put everything together. I lost my job and I moved out of my own apartment back with my parents. That could be spiraling down or whatever, but spiraling. Yeah, I just changed my job, but I went from being a crew leader at Wendy's to a manager at Burger King. Oh, that's spiraling up. So that's the way I think our customers come in, and they kind of relax because they just kind of see the atmosphere is more relaxed. We got music playing and all that. And I guess it's fortunate that a lot of our customers are either repeat or referrals. So they already know the game, and we've been around town for 30 years. So they kind of already know how we are. Back.
So,
this is not rocket science. This is not a hard business.
No, I know. And Dave, I know you must have questions about that. So I think the part that, and I'll let you jump in there, but I think as I hear that, what I would challenge you to think about is one of the things we see in our industry is that regardless of what that decision process looks like, you heard Tommy talk about just as customers spiraling up or down, and however whatever attitude we bring to that decision-making process and underwriting or meeting a customer and deciding to bring them on in before they ever get to an approval, like there's all the stuff that we do, leading up to that. I think the thing is that I hear dealers like Tommy are approaching it with the expectation of doing business. You see what I mean? It's the mindset of say, I expect to get past the credit story, past the down payment story, and I expect us to end up doing business. But in order for that to happen, I need to understand who you are, kind of where you came from, and what I need to know your story. So that's part of how it works. So Dave, your thoughts or questions on that?
Well, I think that you just said this. It's finding a way to get to the win-win. Not to be cliche about that, but it's finding a way to make that work. Like when you see somebody not like, oh, this isn't going to work, or finding all the negatives, is like, okay, what does this need to look like so that they walk out of here with what they need, and we get what we need.
Yeah,
it might not be how I think it looks right now, but it might be something else. And I think my take, Tommy, I mean, you sort of look at people like that of like, let's look past all the stuff. Let's find the ways that this could work, as opposed to the ways this shouldn't work or won't work or will likely fail.
That's what we're in the business for. And that's why I caution, I see people asking, well, what's your underwriting guidelines? and then they give a list of, they got to make a certain amount of money, and they got to be at a job a certain amount of time, and they got to be at a residence a certain amount of time. And I caution people on that only for the reason is that your salespeople will lay down. If the goal is 1,200 and they make 1,100 and they've been on their job 3 months, it's supposed to be 6. They don't even bring them in the dealership.
Yeah.
You don't know the story. So we bring them in. Do you have a valid PA driver's license? And do you have proof of some kind of income? Don't even ask if you got a job. Yep. Come on in. You're already pre-approved. Everything else we can work through. Nobody leaves a lot until we want them to. And I'm the only person that can say no at the end of the day. And we have a checklist sheet of exceptions. Because you can go through all your static pulls, but Chuck brought it up years ago. Chuck Bonanno brought it up years ago that it's just not one exception that is usually in your static pull review. It's a list of exceptions. So maybe a low down payment. People say low down payments charge off more. Well, yeah, they do, but why? Well, then it could also be lower stability because we're taking less risk. It could be a car that's not that good. There's multiple things that go into it. So we create a checklist sheet that if there's about 8 questions on it. If it has more than 3 no's, then my phone rings. If it doesn't, then it's an automatic deal. But
that's good.
But yeah, you got to figure out how to make the deal. They need a car. They're here. We don't make any money by turning people down. Nobody gets paid on a on a turn down. So
yeah, there's a lot of numbers I would love to get into with you. With having, and that could be another show. It's like, okay, so how many people do you approve based on people that show up on your lot?
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, and
literally probably, if we get 40 or 50 apps a month, there might be 2 complete, turn downs, and some people, usually it's they come in and they make like $900, and I got to show to them that by the time you pay for your car and your gas and your insurance, you're at $900. Yeah. So now how are you going to live? And I basically turn them down for themselves. Yeah. I talk them into realizing that they can't afford a car. But yeah, everybody's approved.
Yeah.
Because they need the car. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. I think I would invite people to find this Topton podcast that we just recorded. Brent Carmichael was a co-host with me, and we talked with Steve Levine about the underwriting thing and how do you do what you just described and do it in a compliant way. Because, we all got to make sure we cross our T's and we make sure we're compliant. And I think, you can absolutely do that, have the flexibility and creativity as a buy here, pay here dealer that you described, and still stay within a compliant, environment. So I think, we probably won't get a chance today to talk through, one of the things I look forward to doing, and we can have you back at another time to talk about your actual customer success stories. But I think, Dave, you've talked to Michelle and me a lot in our work and our own business building about this idea of customer lifetime value, right? And so when I look at Tommy and I think about, he's got customers that he met within the first few months that he was open,
that he still has
30 years ago, that still there, friends and family, 3 and 4 generations of people in the family that have bought there. And I'm thinking, what is the lifetime value of some of those customers that some dealerships would just broom them because they were a little short on job time or down payment? They broom that customer. And so this is where I'm trying to say, look, we're talking a lot about heart stuff here, Tommy, like your whole relationship thing. This is about just meeting people with an open mind, open heart. You're coming at it from a standpoint, I'm trying to help. I expect to find a solution. I expect if anybody around can help, it's me. So let's continue this conversation, right? So now I'm thinking people who are taking a different approach are missing, Dave, this opportunity, that the lifetime value of the customer that they send away. And my 10-year approach and Tommy's 30-year approach is like, what that one customer, you could bring them into your book of business and they could be with you for a very long time. I've got my own stories, Tommy. You've got stories of people that have been with you a long time, and they don't fit the profile, do they? Like they probably on a lot of other dealerships would get turned down if they walked in.
They say no, we say yes. Most of them do. And I'm not knocking the bank, the numbers end of this game. I mean, you
got asked a question about that. What numbers?
Yeah. The numbers. And I mean, accountants make this business work. on a scale, on a certain scale. Drive time is a bunch of accountants, I think. I don't think there's a car guy in the mix.
Yeah.
But if you put the numbers together and you can make the numbers work, and it's a valuable business, and that's why people get into it, and it's big. But I look at it a different way. I'm not looking to become, if I wanted to become 3, 4, 5,000 accounts, I would have done that years ago. That was never my goal. So it's a little different way to help a different level of person, which I don't hate accountants. I almost became one.
It's probably Amanda.
That's another funny story.
Yeah.
I've got an accountant on a ski lift who talked me out of my accounting degree.
Yeah, it's Amanda.
They I figured it was Amanda. They missed that other opportunity, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because that opportunity is there for a lot of us that don't have the capital or the means to do it. You can go out and do this business, and Rick's old model was 10 cars a month, making $50 payments, and you add that up, and all of a sudden you're working out of you and your wife are working out of your garage, collecting $10,000-$12,000 a month in payments in 1992. That's a lot of money.
Sure.
So there's different avenues of it. I just choose to take that lower end, which I think more of us are in that than not. And I think we're seeing some of these big corporations blow up because they don't have the connection with the customers at the bottom, and they're just feeding the hamster wheel. Keep the things rolling, and that's a whole nother Christ. We can have.
I will, and I kind of look at this question that Sergio asked about, average down payment, monthly payment, ACV, and I'm like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because we went from back in the day. We would sell a car for what our tax and tags are today. $14.95. That's tax and tags on one of our cars. So whether your ACV is 25, I would love to get back to. I watch some of these guys with $2,500 ACVs. I mean, I've actually gone back in cars. I tried to chase that nicer car, that higher ACV. All it does is cost you more money. The customer isn't any different, and it just takes more money out of your pocket. So, what's the lowest ACV that you can feel comfortable with, and the highest amount of weekly payment that you can charge? I mean, we were charging $88 for a million years because we thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And then after a pandemic, we got really cool and said, let's do $99. and now somebody comes in, well, what's my monthly payment? Well, if you put tax and tags down, that's like $1,500 down, and your payment's going to be about $485 a month. Oh, is that it? I'm like, okay. So it's all in our head. We stop ourselves from raising the price or lowering the ACV. We think we need a better car. We don't think the customer is going to afford it. We don't think that we stop ourselves from doing it. We're the only ones telling ourselves no, so we're also telling ourselves no because the customer just got a new job last week. So we're our own worst enemy in this business.
Yeah, I see. Obviously the math's got to work. Like when you talk about different ACVs, obviously I got to have the cash to fund those contracts. Right. But I know that, and by the way, we're going to spend every episode in May, with a couple of exceptions, on collections. We're going to really dig into collections.
And we'd love to have you, besides the fact that we'd got an anniversary coming up, we'd love to have you in there, because I think the other piece of this, Tommy, you and I have had enough conversations to know that, like, the underwriting is one thing, but the underwriting, how you underwrite this deal when they're asking about a certain ACV or certain down payment percentage or whatever that looks like, however they underwrite that deal, the success of that loan, regardless of what kind of car, regardless of what kind of miles and down payment, all those things, has a lot more to do with how we manage it in collections over 3+ years.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really about that relationship now. It's like, I got to have some level of relationship in order for me to manage this long-term business relationship and expect that customer to be successful. Of course, I got to make a good underwriting decision. And that may be a lot less about the numbers than we may spend our days thinking it is. And now it's more about how do we help this customer be successful in this contract, regardless of what that down payment is, regardless of what that cost of car is. So again, the math has to work. I mean,
but what you're saying, Jim, is even harder today. Like I said, when everybody came in every week to make their payment, if there was a problem, we were face to face.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could adjust our relationship every week.
Sure.
You know, now you really have to get that relationship created on time of sale. So you
Sure.
really got to slow down the process
Sure.
and make sure the relationship, because you, like I said, you may never see that person again.
Yeah.
And if you don't build up some sort of relationship out of the box, then, you know, down the road when the payments start to fall, you don't have anything. And then if you say the wrong thing,
Yeah.
the customer's like, then they start lying or they start ignoring you or whatever. You know, it's our fault. It's all over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over here.
Sure.
Got that from Fish in the Fish Market. Read that book.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
But it's all, if something happens, if a customer's not communicating with us or we repossess a car, what did we do wrong to cause that problem? And sometimes, obviously, the motor blows and a customer drove the car 15,000 miles in 3 months, and you're not going to fix it. You're going to be the bad guy. Then be the bad. It is what it is, you know. But we lose a lot. You know, we can take all the extremes, but it's that stuff in the middle where people lose a lot of customers and relationships. That's the kind of the gray area that we lose just because we focus on the numbers.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it's probably a good place to wrap up. Dave, you got anything else?
No, that's a whole interesting conversation, and in its own right of just, this could go on for a long time. Talking about the lifetime
flow chart just going like this.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the lifetime value of a customer is a hard thing, but it really is the one metric that a lot of people have used to say, okay, what's the value of a customer long term? Anybody who's been in a food service business or retail business, right? Which I'm very glad I had all those experiences early on, because you really do see what the value of a good customer can be, and also what happens when you have a bad customer, or that customer has a bad experience and you don't work on mending that, how that impacts and spiders down the road. It's similarly for good customers, same way. Maybe they aren't the best customer today, but we know if we keep them on and it gets them to a place this is helping them get to a place to where they are consistent or more consistent, then you might look at a lifetime value of a customer go from a certain amount to a 10x kind of amount. And those are bigger decisions. Like, look, we could have, and that's where customer service and looking somebody in the eye and all these things you've talked about today really do matter, because you're not going to have those or be able to maintain those kinds of relationships if you don't have that relationship.
Yeah. And I would say, Tommy, one way to think about this is those customers that were with Tommy for 30 years instead of 30 days is because it's not because he sold them a right car at the right price. It's because he had ways to support them, because there were hiccups, there were setbacks across these 30 years. There were tons of things that happened that he had to work through with those customers. And so I think that's the thing we have to look beyond, is like, part of the reason that customer is successful is because of the way that we're able to support them in that, navigating that whole thing. And that's the way a relationship works. I mean, take it outside of our car business. It's the way a relationship works. In order for it to work, we've got to be supportive, of our partner in that. And so that's part of how it happens.
I was gonna say, the one thing I think is, and it's not talked about enough, at least in some of the things I see, is this notion that, as you scale up a business, that becomes the real challenge of how do you keep. So Tommy has all this internal, how he deals with people. It's just something you are, Tommy, and it's led to all of your success, but it becomes really challenging. Well, how do I grow this? If I want to do that, if that's my choice, I want to grow this to multiple locations or across multiple states. It's any franchisor starting to look at this, or like, how do we grow this? How do you keep that integrity and that sense of what made you intact? And it's a challenge of every business. Every business struggles with it. How do you translate it? Because they're like, well, we need to be able to look at this and look at numbers, but it's more than just numbers. It's about these connections, and that's what.
And you're talking about. I think you're talking about the book "Good to Great," Jim Collins. And read the great. And there's only a hand. There might be 4,000 people in our Buy Here, Pay Here success group here, and you might be able to count on two hands the operators that could do exactly what you're talking about with this model.
Very good.
Yeah. I wanted to, but as we're just kind of like wrap up, it sounds to me like the key is when they get there is to have that connection, have that conversation, and then, you create an open environment for you to be able to talk about the problems and the challenges and the things. I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you next month in the collections about your experience with texting and how you're able to still keep that connection. But I think overall, for all of the people that are out there listening, Tommy's been doing this for quite a long time. And Tommy is really reaping the rewards of years of having this kind of practice. And I would imagine that it doesn't take more than, the 3 years to start to see those kind of things start just churning, because now you're getting your repeat customers. And now you're getting more of the other pieces. And I love talking to dealers that a lot of the contracts that they're signing that are current are from that repeat, from that referral, from that thing. And it just takes creating that kind of environment from the gate, and then just continuing and fostering that kind of environment. And then you can enjoy that kind of, we're known in the community, and and so people come back, or send us to
I think, Tommy, we come on here on
Mm-hmm.
a White Hat Wednesday. We've now done apparently about 50 of them, and we talk a lot about this heart stuff and being good to your customers, and I think the challenge for us is always, how can we help dealers understand it's just better business? Like, you're going to be more profitable, more successful in the long term. We're over here talking about the heart piece, and not to say there aren't other dealers out there operating from heart. Of course there are, but it's like, we just know that when we can understand this piece that seems to get left out a lot, that we definitely improve the sustainability of our business. Because
there's pieces. You're right. I'm just one piece of what I do, and like I said, I followed so many other dealers and pulled what they do way better than I do into my business to create a successful model.
Sure.
I'm just what I do. The create the relationship is just one piece.
Yeah. And I think it's one thing, we talk a lot about sales and underwriting and all those things, but it's like, you talk about creating a relationship, which is where it starts. And then I think about that, the whole thing about, it's not in our business, it's not how many cars we sell, it's how many we keep sold. It's how many we keep on the road, making a car payment, whatever. And so this is where the maintaining the relationship, on the other side of that. And so that, again, we'll go into collections in the month of May, but I think that's where it starts to take those practices that you're talking about on the front end and applying them to the collection side, and starting to understand how a customer can be more successful regardless of the price of the car.
Yeah, that's a good discussion to have, because I see people just fix the car, just fix the car, just fix the car. Throwing money at a customer is not solving the problem.
Sure.
And it's only going to cost you more money in the end. So, but that's a conversation for another day.
Looking forward to
another
it.
one of those.
Forward to it.
Yeah. Put it on the flow chart.
Yeah, right. Sure. Well, we look forward to having you back as always. So thanks for making time.
It's always fun.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put y'all backstage. Thanks, Dave, for joining us too, and weighing in from a larger business perspective too. And I'm going to put you both in backstage, and we're going to close up, and so we can say a proper thank you and goodbye. If you guys will stick around for just
Thanks,
a minute.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye. All righty. Good info.
Yeah, tons of stuff. It's always great to spend some time with Tommy. I love being able to take dealers inside the thought process that Tommy brings to the industry, because I think it's the piece that gets missed too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you again for joining us today. Thanks again for Tommy and Dave, and we will see you guys on Friday. And do you remember what the subject is?
No, I don't. We're going back to cash flow. I think it's that one on the volume formula.
The volume formula, and that's an interesting. We get a lot of questions about that when we start talking about the volume formula. So we'll see you guys on Friday. Have a great Wednesday, and
see you Friday.
See you Friday.